there's a certain portion of the games market that's been a bit thin as of late, the B tier. Now, these games have a lot of really cool ideas, good gameplay, but just ultimately fail to come together for whatever reason. As games have progressively become more and more expensive, they've also evolved a tendency to either be amazing or fail spectacularly. The B tier is a relic of the days when sometimes games would fall somewhere in the middle. But every once in a while, games still fall into that category, and Murdered Soul Suspect is very much one of those games. It has its fair share of problems, but the concepts behind its story and gameplay are fascinating, even if they are executed in a decidedly mediocre way. In Soul Suspect, you play a ghost cop. That's the easiest way to put it. You start off the game watching yourself get killed, and then you spend the rest of the game trying to unravel the mystery of the person that did it to you. This game takes place in Salem, and as one would imagine from a game that features a spectral officer as its protagonist, shit gets weird quick. Most of the game plays out like a phantasmic LA Noire. You'll arrive at crime scenes or areas of interest where there are hidden clues, and you'll have to examine each clue and discern the connections between them. Now, one thing I learned very early on about Soul Suspect was that I needed to overcome my compulsion to collect everything. Every crime scene has a ton of clues, most of which are completely useless, and every little area has a bunch of little knickknacks you can collect, all with counters to track your progress. But I found very quickly that I was driving myself crazy trying to find everything, particularly in the crime scene areas. It meant that I had a much more enjoyable experience if I just did things until I got frustrated, and then stopped and moved on with the game. And beyond the rather petty complaint of too much stuff, there's a lot else that bugs me about the game. The UI is messy, it just feels disorganized, the controls feel loose, the animations and graphics are straight from last generation, which makes sense since it seems like it's just an upres. But Soul Suspect has heart, and I'd recommend it with no reservations if the game was mostly the investigation stuff. And to be fair, those areas do make up a rather significant percentage of the game. The problem is what makes up the other significant percentage: awful stealth sequences. In these stealth segments, every problem I've outlined with the game's investigatory sections is exacerbated, highlighted, because unlike investigations where you can struggle with the game mechanics until you manage to make it do what you want, with the stealth action sequences, you will fail every time you make a mistake, and it's so easy to do. But honestly, my biggest problem with those stealth sections is that it breaks up the pacing. When there's a game where I find the story and atmosphere more interesting than the gameplay, and the gameplay is bad, it frustrates the hell out of me. And every time Soul Suspect would throw a stealth sequence at me, I would just kind of sigh deeply, and often I would turn off the console and come back later. I wanted to solve the mysteries of the game's world, not endlessly evade evil demon ghosts. Still, if you like the idea of an LA Noire-esque game set in Salem with a sort of ghostly twist to it, the game has a lot of really neat concepts and ideas, all bundled up in a UI and some gameplay that really didn't do them justice. Now, at the end of my reviews, I like to talk about how easy or hard it is to get a hold of the game I just reviewed. But Soul Suspect's a bit odd. It just came out last year, but I really felt that I needed to highlight it. But you shouldn't pay full price for it. It's almost always on sale, and while the PS4, Xbox One, and PC versions of the game do run and look slightly better, the 360 and PS3 versions, from what I've heard, are completely fine. Pick it up on a sale sometime for cheap if you're interested. For the $7 or $8, you probably won't be disappointed. Even though it's flawed, it's still very interesting. Every week, I look at games that were ignored when they came out or have been forgotten since. Games that, while they might be flawed, still have some value to them. Games that I think people should check out. If you like that idea, be sure to subscribe so you can see my latest reviews. And if you like this video in particular, be sure to hit that like button. Thanks for watching.